Morning this morning, and welcome to Business Review on while we're looking at publications across the world. My name is Ikenna Mbah, and quickly to my usual anti-usualist guests, to my far right, Dr. Idahosa Osamhanze. Welcome to the show.
Good Nigeria, great Africa.
Good Nigeria. And to my immediate right is the one, the only, Jide Taiwo.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Doctor. Glad to be back on SOUQ Business Landscape.
Good SOUQ this morning.
Good SOUQ. But Doctor has been trying to inculcate that. It's going to take a few moments to get it, but yeah, it's a great sentiment.
I shall allow you know that it can only be a SOUQ morning. And Good Nigeria. Anything else you guys are bringing onto this show, you shall have to pay for.
Okay. So, Good Nigeria and SOUQ morning to you both.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Doc.
Great.
All right, on to our first publication this morning, Business Day, Nigeria. Ubeta's $550 million project to expand Nigeria's domestic gas supply. So they say once operational, the project will yield 10,000 barrels per day of associated liquids. This is significant, quite a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's quite great to see that investment is also going into that sector because we have neglected that sector for too long, and many people haven't paid very unique attention to it, especially with the abundance of deposits that God has blessed us with. So this is a heartwarming news, and then of course we also see how this impacts the macroeconomic framework of the country. Some huge sum of money there.
Very huge.
I mean, what stands out to me the most is the fact that it's for domestic, consumption. It's not necessarily or domestic exploration. I'm not sure what the thing is, but ab initio, it looks like we've been so in love with the idea of exporting only. So even when we have a dearth, a glut, a lack of resources, the tendency is to want to export. But we have this huge need ourselves. I always make reference to an establishment just outside of our window here. You look at it and it's an independent power project that was done some 20 years ago. So those are but about 20 years ago that Lagos State government developed it.
Wow.
But the government of the day at the time, I think President Obasanjo, I don't think it was ready for that breakup of the power sector, right? So he ensured that all the power was centralized in a so-called national grid that all of us now know. Every time I hear national grid, I just think of a huge machine that you just debundle every time. But, the point is that we need this type of investment for, first of all, let's even satisfy our need first. All this noise that we're talking about, fuel price, this one, that. By the way, domestic gas too is expensive.
I was waiting for you to land.
Domestic gas is expensive. I just paid, money that would have gone into something else to buy 12 kg of gas.
But a lot of money.
Tidy money in this economy. But, it's heartwarming to see that despite all the challenges that people often tout, about Nigeria is this, so it's not a safe business environment. We still see that's a lot of money. You can buy a football club. You can buy 2 Chelseas. I joke. But you can buy a European football club with that type of money. You can do a lot of things with it. But it's heartwarming to see that investment coming in to the domestic market.
Amazing stuff.
I thought you were going to buy to Arsenal.
No, Arsenal is Arsenal. No, the people that will buy Arsenal, they are not ready.
All right, next headline. They commit $2 billion facility to support Africa's health product manufacturing. So this is a bank that has renewed partnership with the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention. They announced it yesterday at the Global Forum in Paris.
Okay, so that's the Afri-Exim, right?
Afri-Exim Bank.
Afri-Exim Bank. I remember that in my former life, I had worked at a business establishment that had interest in making packaging. And I remember as far back as, say, 2011, 12 or thereabouts, we got a contract to supply 1 million packets of a certain toothpaste brand for 4 different variants. As they say, it's we that we ran off because the demand was just too great that the company at the time couldn't take it on as a whole like that. So there's still a lot to do in terms of product packaging, especially medical, products. You go to in a climate that counterfeits and things cause real life damage to people. Seeing that this thing is not just one dimensional, there's something that's coming from the Afri-Exim Bank. And how many billion? $2 billion? That's plenty of money, doctor.
You see, but you see, my real worry
Yes.
is the way we are deploying money in Africa. Yeah, this thing seems to be taking us away from what we really need. Two scenarios was just running in my head as Jide was speaking. The first scenario was the fact that there was this young lady who was a medical doctor, I think she's Uganda, and there was this World Health Organized program. We're thinking about how to fund health facilities in Africa, and they were talking about agriculture. And the young lady said, I am a trained medical doctor, and I work in Africa, especially East Africa. And most of the cases that I see that come to me are not really disease-related cases. That Africa have more hunger problem than health challenge. So she has taken to become a farmer,
right,
rather than being a medical doctor, because if Africa get good food to eat, most of the issues that we are talking about disease, they would have been gone. That's the one scene. Now, the second scene was what I just saw on our sister TV station was trending. A certain guy that was beaten up by pharmacists because he's saying that hypertension is not a disease that is terminal. That all you just need is to clean your system. And the guy will say, look, they will kill me, but I will continue to talk about it. That once you clean your system, you deal with the issues of hypertension permanently.
Correct.
But you know that there are a lot of big farmers who all they do all their year, because they have told doctors that hypertension is a terminal disease and you cannot control it, you can't stop it, so you keep using the drug perpetually all your life. So you create that market. So when I see investments in this health stuff we talk about, sometimes it worries me because there are local remedies. Somebody talked about diarrhea yesterday, talking about cholera. And I said, if it was in my village, they just pluck leaf by the backyard and you just squeeze that leaf and drink, and that thing stops instantly. So why did it become something that is killing people? So these are the things that I feel Africa must begin to rethink their health infrastructure. That are we going to be relying on these big farmers right here so that we can be investing in their productions of things that will help us to keep us sick, or we should begin to look for things that are real remedies that can be found around where we live. So those conversations, for me, is huge. Just imagine that we are putting this thing in research to see how we can find African solution to African problems.
I mean, for me, I don't think it's a zero-sum game. I take your point, Doc, but as a proponent of orthodox medicine over herbs, I don't see. I mean, I'd rather use 2 pills than drink 3 leaves, but that's just me. But I think it's a combination.
But there's bitter leaf pills as well.
Yeah,
so are you saying you will take 2 pills of bitter leaf?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just packaging.
You are.
That is what it is. But what I'm saying is that there are a lot of more efficacious solutions here.
So, localized African issues.
Oh, issues.
Right.
Take issues, for example, orthopedic issues, bone-related issues. Nobody does it better than Africa.
Right.
Doctor, are we sure?
I'm telling you for certain.
These people that used to put plank in somebody's leg in Ikorodu, shout out to my Ikorodu people. All those people that will put plank to your leg and
those things they do, and I can tell you because I have a cousin whose leg was smashed and grinded by a lorry.
That's tough.
But they gathered those bolts and they fixed it back, and it was not amputated.
Like Lego, they had to fix everything.
Everything back. So you see, this is possible. This is a technology. All we just need to do with Africa is to polish our technology.
Or for codify our technology.
Yeah. So that we can, all this money that we are pushing to the big farmers to grow the West, we can actually put it to do research on some of the things we're doing. This leaf that you say you are not taking, they are coming here to take it, they package it and send it back to you.
Pills.
And of course, they are not as efficacious as it be because they are putting a lot of chemical substances in it that, of course, they help you manage the situations. But I know that there are cures in Africa. Not just managing a situation. So that's my way of looking at it. So if I have something that I will take and then my problem is solved, then why do I need to
something that you take to maintain it?
You see, there was this video that trended some 3 or 4 years ago, still on hypertension. And this was in Benin. A guy came to the restaurant, wanted to eat, and they sent me food, and he said, too much salt, I don't want to eat salt. And then the guy asked, why are you not eating salt? He said, I am hypertensive. I said, what is the meaning of that? That's a local fruit here.
Indeed.
Cut it, slice it into water and drink the water. That thing will drop. And we thought like it was a fluke, but I have known about 3, 5, 6 persons who have used that solution, and now they don't take any hypertensive drug. So these are, for me, what are local cures that are available. So how do we organize it? That maybe our research centers are able to really mobilize this understanding from our local environment, and then we can deploy them for African cure. So rather than depend solely on the big farmers who are trading with our well-being.
I don't think doctor is a big fan of big pharma.
I am not at all.
Or big tobacco.
I am not.
Or big tech.
I am not at all.
Big tech, yes.
Big tech.
Not for the other two.
Okay.
Or like you say, you said something that stood out, that these drugs, these solutions can be made and people will take and there's instant, cure. Because it takes a while for the tablets to dissolve. But the liquid goes straight to your system. And Dr. Shebi says, something as regards to what you said, that many of these diseases from AIDS, and it's been proven because he was at the Supreme Court before he passed, and he defended himself. He had people come witness from AIDS to cancer to blindness. This was even him. That all you had to do, what he was saying, clean your system, change your diet, start to take certain stuff, natural stuff. And he said this is the same thing. It's not like there's one solution he used. Same thing for everybody. And they went to test and thing was gone.
Yeah, where I was, I saw my mother with young children that are just born. And they say the child cries all day because the brain is not strong enough and the thing is pumping, and creating a whole lot of headache. A lot of children were dying by it. I saw this remedied with just leaf, not even drunk. They squeeze it and they put it on top of that head, and the thing stopped. Instant.
So where the challenge now is, these things have not been codified. So you can't reference, and that's your point about research. It's not like you can look at a book now and say, oh, this is this leaf, this is this dosage. It depends on the experience.
Your worries is dosage.
Yeah, but you see what you call codification. And this is the problem I have with a lot of African scholars, that we make the West to become our reference point. Who is their reference point?
Research.
See, even what we saw, the so-called research, where we speak it, objectivity in quotes, it's what we say it is.
Fair point.
So that is what it is, because we also see where some of these medications are actually used and they are not efficacious.
Right.
Correct. So when we're talking about codification, I feel that we don't need to denigrate what we have. If it worked for our parents, why they were not here? And they have solutions. Yes, there were a lot of things that they didn't discover, which of course also in their own claim that you have a lot of people who are putting money down to research what plant is, what leaves are, what are the components. Now, what kind of a measure of each do we need? So African scholars should be able to do this in liaison with these local people and practitioners and say, let's see this help. What is the security property? How do we harness it, even for the global market? India has done this successfully and is helping them. So why can't we invest in that sector? And I tell you that it will bring a lot of billions of dollars.
Even more than this 2 billion.
That we are talking about, yes.
That's right. That's right.
Good food is medicine. Next, Kenyan daily publication Business Daily. Storm over 200 billion shillings Treasury budget cut amidst blackmail claims. So yesterday there was an uproar in the Treasury cabinet. Secretary warned of the 200 billion budget cuts. Should MPs decide or try or propose to scrap what they're trying to do with tax in the finance bill?
Some folks will have you know that Africa is a country. There's no one African country that's not dealing with some form of what everybody else is dealing with. So you could put any name, any country on this news beat, and it will be the same. Could be Nigeria, could be Ghana, could be South Africa.
Is that bad?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. But I'm not very surprised that there's an uproar to say once you do this tax cuts, it's going to be fight. Also, when you look at the Kenyan economy, it's stopped and starts and then kind of like that, up and down like that, and it's very tough for anybody that is a populist, right? That's on the, as we say in Africa, opposition, to agree with anything that the mainstream government does.
Even if it's good.
I mean, the default, we have mastered it in Africa, the default is to find the opposing view, no matter what it is that you're saying, right? But on the other side as well, there's a tendency for African mainstream leaders, heads of government, to be irresponsible in their spending. So is this kind of, so my own thing is, if they're not fighting physical, it's fine. If they're having an argument of ideas, of concepts, of perspective, it's good for the democracy. But one thing you also know about Kenya is that they are very heated, in their approach to conversations around national spends, around tax cuts, around budgets and such like.
Yeah, but I think it's a debate that is worth having. Because when those who are in government are thinking, the first thing they think about is how much more money we can take from the pockets of the average person. Now, for a poor environment like us, where you, as an individual, you are a local government of your own. You construct your road, you source your water, your electricity.
Your power.
You have to also find a way to even be a hospital unto yourself, because the ones that are there are not functional. Now, so many things that, of course, that some local entities should have been taken away from you is something you do yourself. And all this is coming. Of course, security, which is even the worst. Because if you go to some estate now, even closes within closing the estate have security.
Yes.
And then houses inside the estate have security. So you find that at different levels, you are paying some level of security fee to some people to protect yourself. Now, if you are doing this, all these things are coming either from business you are doing. So which means you are taking so much money from people. Because government on its own has not been able to provide those basic needs of the humans. And therefore, putting more tax burden on those people who are already overwhelmed by doing things that government naturally should be doing, for me, is a no-no. So I have never believed that raising tax was going to solve the problem of Africa. In short, I agree completely with one congressman from the US who says that the problem of Africa is that they are always trying and struggling to prove to the West that we have the capacity to pay, and therefore put tax on the people that are already poor and then making them poorer. So more tax cannot help Africa. It's not possible. So what will help Africa is to see, how do we really reduce this burden? To first of all, create prosperity so that people have the capacity to pay tax. And then, of course, the burden of government to also fix basic infrastructure.
Right.
So that we are not paying more than, you see, people can program their life in UK, in Europe, in America, by simply going to get a ticket for train. And you know that at 10 a.m., the train will be available. By 5 p.m. when you close work, you have the train to go back to your house. So you can program your life around that thing. And then you save a whole lot, because those infrastructure are in place. But here we don't have them. So you can imagine somebody who is moving from Ogba, for example, to the island. and you are paying that guy maybe 100,000. Transport alone, 2 ways. If you enter the yellow bus transport, it's about 1,000 both way. That's 2,000. That's already 50,000. So these are the issues that Africans face. So when you are now coming to take tax away from that kind of a person, you're not doing the person any good. You are not even building the economy. You are rather destroying the economy. And I think this is what has happened over time in most African countries. Because we are thinking that by taking more tax, we are going to do more. But government has not been able to actually also do the part of their bargain. And this is also bringing me to the issue of government trying to do so much.
So, Doc, do you agree that the rich should be taxed more in this case?
Yes, you see, when you are mini taxed more, it has to be moderately taxed.
Oh, sure. So
that the businesses are not affected. Otherwise, every businessman will take money to where tax havens are and go and put their money there. Why do you think people are moving to the UAE? No corporate tax, no income tax. So why do you think people go there to go and start a business? And from there, they can operate to any part of the world. So that is the issue. So even in Europe, you're also seeing tax havens where you find some countries or some localities where the tax is quite really reduced and people want to put their businesses there. So because there's no rich person that want to overpay tax. Because you are looking at the profits, you are thinking about future investment, you are thinking about putting more money in research and development, and then government take a chunk of it, like they do in the UK. Corporate tax in Germany is about 43%, in UK is about 40%. So how do you invest and grow that sector?
Right.
That's why you see, if you look at the politics of America, you see that there's always this switch between the Republican and Democrats. Maybe after 8 years, this switch is moderating the impact of tax on the corporations and the big boys. Because when Republicans are there, it's like a small tax holiday. When the Democrat comes, of course, they have to take more from the rich so that they can fulfill their social promises to the very poor. So you see this dynamic in the American election. So it's almost like an autopilot kind of thing. So these are the kind of things that we also must design in our system, that when you are taking from somebody, you also must look at the environment and see whether this person is able to continue to exist.
That's so right.
So that you can have something to take.
Let's all exist. Coexist together. Next headline, Sanlam to wind up 3 subsidiaries as losses up. So they are winding down their property, bottled mineral water, asset management businesses because they've been struggling with years of losses and dividend drought to shareholders. And Sanlam, I think, insurance?
It's a holding. It's a conglomerate of sort that has all of this interest.
So if they take 3 businesses down, that's
it's not. There's nothing that is happening now that has not happened before. But like I said last time I was there, the challenge is if that's the end of the business. So if the business goes bust,
that's where there's a problem.
That's where there's a problem. If another, healthy company takes over the subsidiaries and they can keep the pipeline going, by all means. Fair. But we also have to look at how conglomerates in Africa has spent their monies, have made wrong investments at some point, and in some cases been unfortunate, in how things have gone on. So it's always a sad thing when the business goes out, or when, for no pun intended, when the business goes out of business, right? But I hope that they are able to find a way to still play. If you are not playing in the real sector, perhaps they can reinvent themselves in another form, and hopefully better place the businesses take over Sanlam.
Yeah, but look at it. I was speaking with a colleague yesterday while we were moving. You see, there's a way businesses are run globally, and I think this is not peculiar to Africa, where once we're doing well, we go to sleep. And nobody really focuses energy on core or proper marketing. I was telling Sam yesterday, because a lot of people cannot differentiate the difference between sales and marketing.
Indeed.
Because you see a salesman, they say he's a marketer. Because people really don't know who a marketer is. Because this is a real point. If you're not checking the lifestyle of the audience that you are serving, chances are that there's a lifestyle change. And people are not going to be relying on that particular thing that you think was the cash cow. And then all of a sudden, this thing just filter out. I used the WAPCO experience yesterday when I was discussing with my colleague. And I said, you know, those days when you go to Oshodi, you see women selling sachet milk tied in small nylons, sugar in small nylons. That was actually a predictor of what the economy looked like.
Even water at the time.
Yeah.
Remember?
So, yes, water here. So these were predators. So you see people who came into the sachet water business.
How did we drink those things?
Oh, yeah. we drank them, but we didn't even know where the water were coming from. Yeah, of course. But you see, people came to clean up that business by investing in the sachet water. Mm-hmm. You saw that Cowbell Small Milk came out and automatically took over like 20% of the market share that WAPCO was already controlling. So this is the kind of thinking that happens when big businesses are making losses, because your overhead is going up and you are investing in top-notch technology, but you're also not checking the lifestyle of people who are consuming what you are producing. So the chances are that your investment will not be able to yield huge returns.
Indeed.
This is, let's say it's good news. On to Financial Times, looking at Asia. Revolut targets $40 billion value to seal top spot in rankings of Europe's fintech. So Europe fintech targets a valuation exceeding $40 billion in a share sale that would cement its status as Europe's most valuable startup. It's looking to sell about $500 million worth of existing shares, including those held by employees. Now, this is a good leap in the right direction.
I mean, again, just like Doctor said now, if you look at the lifestyle of people, you can predict where certain things are going. In recent years, Revolut has been, at least for some of our colleagues and folks that live in Europe and the United Kingdom, Revolut has been the bank of choice. You know, you want to make a quick transfer, you use Revolut. You want to, borrow or do loans or do small transactions like that, you use Revolut. And that's the challenge, I think, for another big banks. Big banks have a tendency to be monolithic over the period of time that they've been in business. And we've seen this disruption that has made the change really in Africa. You look at African fintechs that have driven innovation, and you see what Revolut is also doing in UK and Europe. So I'm not surprised. 500 million, well, given where they play, I don't think is that much, but it's a good start.
Awesome. So
But I am also looking at it from the standpoint of the fact that, you see, we're always going to the people to raise money. I want to guarantee the profitability of that money is another big issue. Yeah, because we live in an era where technology changes every now and then, and as technology changes, there are shifts also. Because once new technology come around, people switch to what is newer than what it used to be. Right. And I think in terms of even putting money down in technological issues, it is important that also the people read the market. Because it's very easy to make a projection
and fall flat.
So this for me is also very important, that while we are thinking of putting or taking more money from people, we must ensure that we are also moderate in terms of our thinking, so that the business is actually able to pay itself back and not put more money. And the more money we put, this money are going into some of these issues, like we are seeing in our climate today now. A lot of right issues, a lot of public offers. But when you go and look at where these things are going to be put, and you find that they are almost surely consumable.
So let's see how much more of these headlines we can take. Financial Times, still on Financial Times. Our business is giving up on green transition. So it's stated that the level of investment required in clean energy is likely to stop government ambitions in that direction.
So
If it's expensive, why do we seem to be leaning towards it?
In the run up to Nigeria's general elections last year, and they asked the front runner who eventually won, President Tinubu, then candidate Tinubu, something about climate change and signatories, and he said, no, you cannot ask Africa, to pay this amount or to cut back on these things, because Africa, well, that concerns me the most, consumes or puts out the least of greenhouse gases in the world, and yet you want us to reduce what we're doing. So it's that dichotomy, but I'm not going to be as uncharitable to say that is a scam. You've had people tell you green transition, all of these things are a scam. A certain Donald Trump does not care how you feel about it, right? But the truth of the matter is, and that's how I'm always looking at it. So say we want to build solar farms, windmills to provide green energy, right? To build those things, you need fossil fuels. To build one windmill, you need a ton of iron and steel. So which gives? So I think that's where businesses are now. Yes, the idea of green energy is very tempting. It's sweet, makes you feel good. I'm doing something nice for the planet. But in real terms, what's it going to be? I can imagine what the cost of solar panels are, and I trust that Doc will speak to that very shortly. It's not cheap.
It's not.
So you now need to make a rational decision and choice to say, what do I want to do? Do I want to invest in the ideal of green energy and making that transition, or do I want to see how much of what we already use conventionally can sustain me?
Sustain and spread.
Yeah, but you see, my own is always trying to also play the devil's advocate every time. You see, because these are a lot of ontological and epistemological issues that needs to be debated. What is known and how it is known.
Right.
You see, there's a whole lot of arguments that are out there talking about, we started with the depletion of the ozone.
Ozone layer.
That was where the conversation started from. That the ozone is being depleted by the kind of refrigeration we were having. And we were actually meant to ship away those refrigerators so that we can buy a new one that will help the ozone. But research also found out that the more of this that was done, that the more the ozone depletes.
Yeah.
So, which means there were more natural things that is actually happening to the ozone, if there's anything as such, than we would have imagined. What worries me is that this knowledge comes only from one party. That's what worries me.
Right.
And they determine how, because the knife is in their hand, the yam is in their hand.
And the
so
steel.
we are forcing businesses.
And the what?
And the steel.
So we're forcing these businesses
And
Right.
the oil.
to invest in this. It's crazy what we're thinking. Because it's not as cheap as we are looking at it.
Right.
And
Far
I
from it.
think really, who is the scapegoat here? It's Africa.
Yep.
That is blessed with so much natural resources that you don't want us to enjoy, but that we have to depend on the one that is coming from you. So okay, I've talked about this green energy. Who owns the technology? They are the one. Who is selling it? They are the one. Who is buying it? We. So even the little that they used to buy from us, they want to stop. So this is where, for me, we also need, as Africa, at what point are we going to also pioneer research to tell them that the things that they are doing, they are not right? Because it's not just about what Africa is doing that is not right. There are a lot of things that they are doing that they are not right.
That's a ballsy ask, and I think before we get there, to take a while. Still on.
But it depends on me and you.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It's
To
ballsy.
stop using them as
The benchmark.
benchmark for everything. That we can begin to really live our life the way we want it, and then study our things,
It takes
and
balls.
then we will be able.
Takes balls.
Yeah, but
That's what I'm saying. It's doable. And quickly, too.
how did they get there? They got there by consistency.
Exactly.
So Africans should be consistent. Leaders in Africa should stop going around the world with caps in their hand looking for money to borrow. Let's deal with the issues that is in our hand, and then we can see how we can learn through the rope and also breakthrough so that Europe can also come to buy technology from Africa.
Let's stop going around cap in hand. All right, next and probably the last headline. Rupee falls to record low of 83.64. So this is not so good news. Comes ahead of the U.S. Federal Reserve rates decision this week. But the Reserve Bank of India intervenes to prevent any further fall in the currency by capping and, they're seen selling the dollar at this price.
So I'm quite familiar, not with the rupee, but with the regulator stepping in to cap what the FX rate is. It's some of the things that has led Nigeria to what it's currently battling with, because once the bank, regulators, the central bank, the Reserve Bank, whatever nomenclature they go with anywhere in the world, once they step in to put a cap on it, that means you're fighting, as we say, market forces, right? So if it's trading at a certain point, like Doctor said, what is the why? If it has fallen down, what are the elements responsible for this record low? As opposed to insisting to cap it. But I understand why, they want to cap it at that point, because India is increasingly heavy on exports and manufacturing. So you need that sort of stability to ensure that you don't lose at both ends. But, I'm not surprised. Again, we spoke about it the last time I was here. FX rates, should not matter if you are exporting. And India, I don't think, has that problem of exports at all. So they'll bounce back. They've also just finished their election. So some of these things are responsible. Investor confidence, where the leans, parties that have donated, individuals and all of that. All of these things will need to play into the fact. But I know that India, one of the most stable economies in the emerging world. I hate to say third world country, because you can tell the difference between a third world country like India and some of our African neighbors. So it's an emerging economy, perhaps not as big as Europe and China, but among those emerging economies,
it's growing and getting there.
Yes.
Whatever happened to BRICS gold back currency?
BRICS is on the way.
Because I really think that the challenge here is the dollarization of international trade that's creating a lot of destabilization globally. And I think, like Europe had done, where you have your regional currency that is as strong as the dollar, is what should be invoked. So that as you trade amongst yourself, Asia should have very strong currency that's united. Africans should have a strong currency that is one. And so once we trade with ourselves, we can also build this equity around our currency, and then we'll be able to actually compete with other countries in the globe. Because what you do here is that you have to always weaken your currency against the dollar so that you can access the international market. And they they're monopolizing the control of dollar. They can print at will, but you cannot print. So once you are going to do international transaction like India is trying to reach into the global soul of the market, you'll find that you will have to need so much of dollar. So scarcity, of course, will lead to devaluation. I think these are the issues that confronts almost all countries south of the divide. I don't like to use the word third world and first world.
No, I don't say that.
Doc, that's hate speech.
You wish.
Thank you for staying with us on SOUQ Business Landscape. We'll come to the tail end. That's so much we could take. It's so much fun when we're doing this and looking at these headlines and how it affects Nigeria, Africa at large. My name is Ikenna Mbah. Thanks to my analysts, my anti-usual analysts. See you same time, 7 a.m. on Monday. Remember, the engagement continues online, YouTube, and across board. #SBL. Stay with us.